The minutes from our December 1st, 2022 meeting. Everyone should have them in their packets. If someone could make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve as presented.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll now move into citizens forum. Carolyn's getting the list. No one? Are there any citizens that wish to speak? Okay. Next, we'll have appearances, starting with the Christmas tree decorating contest winners. So, if you want to come up too. So what do I do? Are you left side up? Okay. That's how they're on this one. Okay, sorry, I'm off. All right, so the third place Christmas tree decorating contest winner is Girl Scout Troop 591. Okay. The second place winner is Girl Scout Troop 1423. All right, and our first place Christmas tree decorating contest winner is Girl Scout Troop 226.
I can honestly say they didn't win because of the cuteness of the presenters. But they may have won anyway. Thank you, girls.
Thank you.
And now Councilperson Johnson will give the awards for the parade winners.
So we'll do the same thing. I'll read off the winners under each of the categories and just invite you to come forward and get your trophy and get a quick picture. And if anybody in the audience wants to take pictures, please do so. I've had the honor of judging the parade for a couple years now, and I have to say, as I'm sure you all agree who watched the parade or participated, that each year when we think the bar could not be raised any higher, it continues to be. And it is the hardest job in the world to sit in a room with two other judges and try to figure out who was the best. So to do so was an effort, and so I couldn't be more excited to report on the results here tonight. So in keeping with the theme, in third place, we have Girl Scout Troops 446, 1423, and 226. Who wants to hold the trophy?
I'll be girl.
There you go. Good job, guys.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Thank you.
In second place, we have Centreville Middle School Honor Society. Awesome. Come on down. We had a tie for second place. The other second place winner was Bridges Behavioral Health and Wellness. Do we have somebody from them tonight? All right, well, we congratulate them. First place, we had American Heritage Girls here tonight, and we congratulate them. In the category for most original, for third place, we had New Freedom Church. Second place, 14U QA Lions Softball. And first place, Mike Garner, Hay and Livestock.
He did email today that he wasn't available.
Okay, So since we don't have anybody here tonight, please at least give everybody a round of applause. And so for best overall, we have Wye River Upper School. And one more round of applause, everybody. Thank you all.
All right, awesome. It was a really great Christmas parade this year, and so thanks to all of you who participated. Now we have a few items of new business. These are all just introductions, right, Carolyn?
Yes,
Do them one at a time?
yes.
Okay. So, the first one is Resolution 01-2023, a resolution of the Town Council of Centreville for the purpose of amending the town charter to revise the reporting structure for Chief of Police. This is just really a charter cleanup based on action by the council 2 councils ago to make the Chief of Police report to the town manager. The charter was sort of left in a position where hiring and firing had to happen by the council. That doesn't really let the town manager manage that person, so this would correct that issue.
So the town manager will hire the
I think in consultation with the council,
okay,
yeah, I think the issue more comes up on the other side of that.
okay.
On comments now, or you want to wait till next week when we
I
have
can
a?
do it now.
So, years ago, when I was on council previously, we had sort of dotted line reporting, where the chief of police reported to the town manager for all matters administrative, but for policing matters, they reported to council. And that kept that separation of duties and allowed the police chief to supervise, to make sure the town manager was abiding by the law.
That's
So,
interesting.
just a point to consider.
No, I appreciate that. I hadn't thought of that. All right,
Well, since that was mentioned, I'm just curious, I know with Sharon's expertise across municipalities, is it kind of a hodgepodge of different scenarios? Got it, that's what I assumed. There isn't really a consistent dotted line versus solid line, et cetera.
And Sharon probably remembers what I'm talking about as well, with the dotted line reporting
Yes.
structure that we had.
I do recall, and when you all had a lot of discussions about that previously, and it isn't a standard across jurisdictions. Different people do it differently. Some jurisdictions have like a mayor, so that's a little different scenario where you have kind of that chief executive overseeing the chief of police. Other ones that don't have that, sometimes they report to the council and sometimes the town manager, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't bifurcate it either on administrative versus policing matters. But, we prepared this based on previous direction from the council, so that's why this is before you, whether you want to make changes to that or not, certainly up to you all.
I like the idea of, at least if it's not too much to ask, maybe seeing what that alternate language could be, and then if we're going to discuss it more fervently next time, have those 2 options before us. I definitely am for the town manager administratively day-to-day reporting to, or the chief reporting to the town manager, I apologize. But I do like the idea of potentially considering that bifurcation as you indicated and as you suggested we consider.
Okay, anything else on this one? Okay. The next one is Resolution 02-2023, a resolution of the Town of Centreville for the purpose of amending the town charter to revise the references to the state office and regulations for the merit system. And this is just a name change to keep us consistent with state law, correct, Crystal? This Office of Personnel Services and Benefits, this is just to keep us consistent with what it's called at the state?
Yes.
Okay. Anything on this one?
All for it. Consistency is good.
And then the next one is Resolution 03-2023, a resolution of the Town Council of Centreville for the purpose of amending the town charter to revise the unclassified and classified service for the town. What is this one?
That's to be consistent with, So this wording is to make it consistent to what the town has been doing over the years, what the practice is. We just need to correct it in the code.
Say what we do.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
Got it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Crystal.
Anything on this one? No? Okay. We'll move into correspondence. We don't have any correspondence, okay?
correspondence.
Great. Reports of boards and commissions, Maryland Municipal League.
So as you all probably know, the legislative session starts next week, and MML is fired up and ready to take forth their legislative priorities. I don't know if they've been reported to council prior to me being elected, but I did bring the memo from MML about their legislative priorities. Their top legislative and almost singular legislative priority is creating an option for municipalities to establish their own police accountability boards and administrative charging committees. Apparently there was a law passed a couple of years ago, or maybe last session.
I just want to write it down when you're talking.
That prescribed that counties do this.
Right.
But the counties also had purview over the municipalities within the county, and so MML is saying that the municipalities need to have their own authority to do that. They also have two strategic initiatives. One is looking for other sources of revenue for municipalities so they can diversify away from property tax, as 80–90% of the revenue for towns. And the other one, let me borrow this back
You're all right.
so I can read my notes. They're looking for policies that promote clear, effective, transparent communications with residents. That's kind of a global
Yeah, we're always looking for
wish
those
list,
too.
right? Yeah. All right, so that's my report for MML. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. One other MML related thing before I forget, the Eastern Shore Association of Municipalities is presenting to the Eastern Shore delegation at their first meeting of the year, which I think is January 20th. But I'll email all of you when that is. I serve on the legislative committee for ESAM. All right, economic development.
Just a brief update, and I did prepare a flyer that's circulating. So first to talk about economic development in its pure form, we're going to have another one of our informal fireside chats on economic development in February. I don't have the date yet, but by the next council meeting, I'll have that to share. And it's going to be a very interesting topic that we're proposing, but you're going to have to wait to hear about it because we're just trying to line a few things up. So more to come on that. In the meantime, we've been talking for over a year now, I believe, on social media. And when I say we, I mean everybody out there at home and some of us up here, about Christmas decorations, and the town can do better. And we agreed as a council that it would be damned if you do, damned if you don't, if we were to say, okay, let's put 20 grand in that. Half the town would say, yay, glad you did it, and the other half would be up in arms that during difficult financial times we would invest such an amount. So the thought has been, why not let the private sector and some of our private citizens who were very vocal at the time on social media and continue to be, to get involved in an informal group that will become a little bit more formal. Not a town function, so I want to be clear to our staff and fellow council up here that this isn't adding a new function to the town by any stretch. This group does not have any authority to tell Public Works, okay, we're going to do this with decorations and you're going to put this up. It would be in consultation with, it would be a fundraising vehicle. So at any rate, it's going to be called the Centreville Festivities and Beautification Team. It's a fabulous group, and it spells fab. Just thought I'd note that. Festivities and beautification. At any rate,
See what you did there.
I did. The team did come up with that, I didn't. So we have a lot of great volunteers from across the town, the different communities, and the launch will just basically be to explore some priorities for 2023 and build on the initial discussion that we witnessed on social media about the town's decorations, and kind of looking at what we've seen in Easton and other neighboring municipalities as options. So if anybody's interested in coming, it's going to be at 502 Little Kidwell Avenue here in town. And this is Monday of this coming week from 8 to 9 p.m. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Parks Advisory Board. The Parks Advisory Board did meet earlier this week, and I went and was extremely overwhelmed by the amount that group does. And Carolyn, do you have the annual report? So they have an annual report of Parks Advisory Board activities to share with us. It's extremely thorough.
Actually, one more, because I think I need a copy for Kip.
Just a couple things from them. They do plan to annualize the fishing derby like they asked us for consensus on a couple meetings ago. And there's money left in the Waterway Improvement Grant Fund. Carolyn, do you have something on that? Or we can talk about it later meeting, or?
I can talk about it now if
Okay.
you want me to. So, yeah, we have $36,945 left in that grant. There were some options that we talked about, and I had the paper.
So the consensus from them at Parks Advisory Board, there are a few different things. It all basically has to be something on the waterway, on the boardwalk right there. It can't be other improvements at the park.
Correct.
The Parks Advisory Board is interested in adding 3 additional boat slips with the funding, with power and water, to create generate additional revenue by having 3 more boat slips to rent. And they just wanted council consideration of that.
So there were a few options.
There were other options, yeah.
Yeah, so, and it's really gonna depend on timing, for it. So we gave, Department of Natural Resources 8 different options that we had talked about, and there are, 3 that they were fine with. One was the slips, it was 4 slips. And that's all going to be dependent upon if it can get done, because this money has to be spent by the end of June. So if anything, it could go, if we wanted to look at design and permitting with this grant, and then request funds in another grant to actually build the additional slips if we want to do that. They also approved timber shelters with metal roofs over the 2, thank you, the 2 piers that are down on the docks. And then they also approved, typically they wouldn't, we gave them an option for, I think it's 2 ADA compliant,
Kayak launches.
no, picnic tables. Kayak launch, they won't do.
Okay.
So the money, just so you know, the money from that's in this grant comes from the fees that are paid to get your slip permits. So it all has to be boater related. So like we talked about, can we put fishing things, pole type things, holder out, terrible.
Rod holders?
Out on the dock, and no, we can't, because that's not for boating technically. They were okay with the timber shelters because it could be shelter from sun and rain for people who are there on their boats or whatever. And they were okay with the picnic tables because it looks like they appear to be, what she said, substantial tables that could last 15 years. So that's why they were okay with, and it would be, again, for the boaters to use when they're there. So those are the 3 options that have been approved by DNR that could be. So I would have to talk to Mike Whitehill again to see if the construction part of the slips would be able. And technically, I'm trying to remember, I don't know that I have a final number on the shelters.
Mike had mentioned in the Parks meeting that he didn't think the shelters were approved because you can't put any roof over any waterway anymore.
Now that may be true. That's not from the grant people. I think that's another.
Yeah.
Yes,
He said
you're
something
right
about you can't
that.
put any
He did
cover
say that
over,
before.
over tidal waters anymore.
Yes.
Learn something new every
So,
day. I learned a lot at Parks
The
Board.
slips and the tables would be the 2.
And they definitely prefer the slips if that's any, but I guess you're saying it just depends on timing.
I think it's going to depend on timing.
Well, what do you mean by slip? You installing finger piers, or you just putting electric in the existing
All of
slips?
it. So it would be 4 additional slips. So it would be the 10 piles, 2 finger piers,
Do you need,
the water and
need a
electric.
permit to do that, though, do a finger pier?
Yes,
Okay.
you would, yeah, and the cost for all of it right now is estimated, the whole slip cost is about $20,000, a little over $20,000. We have 30, for the slips,
Okay.
and that includes the permitting and, the construction of the the piles and the finger piers and the water and the electric may be in here, I'm not sure if it was, but they were pretty, yes. So 30,970 would be, yes, 30,970 would be everything for all four boat slips, and that includes the water and electric for the, that we have down there, the, what are they called, Kip? The power towers. So.
All right, cool.
That's good.
Okay, yeah, the only other thing they really discussed was Arbor Day and getting that going, and that all the trees from Arbor Day last year did not make it. So that they're interested in planting a different type of tree, potentially more trees and pine trees this year. But they'll continue to discuss that, and they have tree board next month, and they'll discuss that there. So that's it. Council of Governments.
Our meeting happens to be the same night as the Planning Commission meeting, which is January 18th. So it'll be.
It's the week before. It's
The week before?
It's the,
Oh.
it is the 11th.
Oh, it's the 11th.
Yeah, next Wednesday. It's
Oh,
the
that's
second
great.
Wednesday of the month.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the second. Okay, good. Where are we gonna be exactly? Because we're the host, and
Yeah, I have to double check on that because who normally caters it for us is no longer here. So I've got to double check. I also need to check too, because I don't have anything for the agenda, like any speaker or anything. So I'm not, we'll see if we'll, but.
Okay.
More than likely, the wharf. It would be at the wharf. That's typically where we hold it, and then just have food catered in, but, so.
Okay. Council President Klein's not here for Planning Commission, but do you guys have anything from Planning Commission?
We were just talking, I think their public hearing on the draft of the comp plan is on the 18th.
Okay.
We're interested in going to that.
All right, thank you.
And will that be here, Sharon?
I think so.
Yes.
All right, moving on to reports of department heads, town manager.
Just a few things. It's been a couple nice weeks off, and Happy New Year to everybody. Farm access testing, we're still waiting on the paperwork to come back from the farmers we've approached about that. They had a couple follow-up questions from our document, just want some clarity, particularly along the areas of timing and how long we would need to access to the farm. On the 20th of January, we are going to be in a webinar with Senator Van Hollen's office on congressionally directed spending. The expectation, thank you, Carolyn. The expectation from the early emails on that prior to the webinar is that after this, or from date of signing of the budget, it'll be about 8 to 12 weeks before they get to us to say.
Maybe we should
here's-
back up to the town successfully received.
Well, yeah,
congressionally
let's go back.
directed
So
spending.
as you recall, I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest because there was a flurry of activity where Ashley and I engaged a lobbyist, and then concurrent to that, there was an opportunity to apply for federally congressional directed spending, earmarks as they used to be called, amongst other things. And so we threw our hat in the ring rather aggressively. It was short spur, and we were allowed to apply for up to $4 million, and we went ahead and applied for that. They had some follow-up questions, and we engaged on a regular basis, kept in touch with them, and out of the interior bill in the budget, we got $2.155 million towards our plan. So that was a great start. So it took, as you saw, the budget didn't get signed for ages, and when that did get signed, we stayed in the interior bill, and so we are getting that money in sometime probably this summer is when all the paperwork gets going. That was a good start, and part and parcel to that, I've already talked to Van Hollen's office, Ben Cardin's office, Senator Cardin, and Congressman Harris's office about this coming cycle. And one of the things I proffered that we would be interested in was start to attack our stack of roads that need renewal. infrastructure underneath of those and the surface of the road itself, where we could apply for that again. And that would probably be an interior or transportation. I brokered the idea of money towards a town hall. Now, we went and saw the new police station in Caroline County. 14,000 some odd square feet, 41 people in there, roughly the size of our staff, and they got it for $5 million. And my first thought was it was going to be a pole barn with some faux brick on the front to make it look kind of nice. And then we toured the facility. It's an outstanding facility. And what Caroline County told the designer was $5 million, not a penny over it, or we're not doing it. And they came in under budget. So when I talked to Deb Haney about this, she said, you absolutely could apply because you're a rural community. That would be in the agriculture bill. You could apply for both. Prioritizing, of course, but we could apply for both because they are separate pots of money. So what I plan to do is put together some options for you all to consider, but these are our top two, I think. There is some opportunities for matching, but if we would come in at the 80% with a 20% match, you all recall the presentation presented when we had the base study done, that those were 16 to 21 million, which is fiscally just not going to work for the town. But when we start talking about getting federal monies for that, I'd like to do, we took a big swing this past year, and I think we might have fouled it off, but we got a chunk of money, is to, let's swing again just as hard this year. We understand a little bit better going in, and let's go for money for the roads, possibly money for town hall, or if there's other things the council would like us to consider, you can stop by and you can kind of look at my wall. Everything's on my whiteboard.
And Chip, I don't know if you said this or not, that just so everybody knows that they indicated that you can't apply for the funds for the same project, correct?
Technically you can, but
Won't get funded.
you're
for
not
the
going to
same
get
project
funded.
again.
They're just, it's sort of a, go ahead, we'll tell you no while you're writing the paperwork out. So that's why we're looking at the other options. And as you know, we are, as Councilman Beecham brought up, session's getting ready to open. We're hearing numbers coming to the budget that are favorable for the town. I'll wait until we see that in print. But we are still engaging. There's 2 times I'm going to be in Annapolis within the next couple weeks for legislative session receptions that I'll be meeting with folks, and there are other members of the new administration that our lobbyists are working to get me in front of to kind of articulate what it is we're trying to do here. And then, so that's the financial side of it. On the technical side of it, Watec Engineering is going to brief you all on the 19th of some of the stuff they have done within the state. They've worked across the country, and they're going to start off fairly broad picture, California, New York, and things, but they're going to winnow it down to Walkersville, Maryland, which has a reverse osmosis system on their water treatment. Population 5,800. So it is scalable, and quite frankly, since we are going out to get this money, there are technical opportunities for us to engage that are more state-of-the-art by what we have. But we're working concurrently, as I mentioned, we're working with the farmers to a farm, but let's look at the full picture, and maybe we get to a point where we get that final money number and say, okay, what can we do with this? Is it repeat our current technology, or is it engage in a more enduring technology? Because when we start talking about injection wells and some of the other stuff we're looking at, you're looking at 50 to 100-year solutions. So what I'm hoping we don't get into is a scenario where 20 years from now, we're doing this again. So it's going to be, there's been a lot of research. As I've said many times to my staff, I've learned more about water, wastewater in the past years than I ever really thought I cared to understand. But no, that's true. It's more than I cared to understand. But it's been interesting. It's been enlightening. And I think it is a good time to be in a bad place, if you will, if that makes sense. That we know we've got some challenges we've got to fix, but we're working on the funding as hard as we can, and we're going to stay after it. And then lastly, we'll put in the good news piece here. Ashley Russ, one of our folks over in finance, has completed her Certified Accounts Payable Manager program from the Institute of Finance and Management. So as you know, we we put a premium on training, and so that is what I mentioned Crystal the last meeting, and Ashley has completed her certification for that, so. And that is all I have for tonight.
Can I just say something real quick, just with regard to the funding that's been received and that is looking favorable at this point? I know we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, but I do want to just draw attention to the great work that you and your team are doing, and for folks at home that might be listening or watching later, the fact that there's folks sitting up here that have been actively lobbying. This is something that I know keeps all of us up at night, the thought of our existing plant failing, and we talk about it all the time. And Santa Claus came early this past year. At the end of the year when we got the news on this level of funding, it was indeed exciting. And I think our citizens at home can at least rest easy knowing we're not quite to the full amount yet, but we are doing everything we can, and I know you are, Chip, and we thank you for it, to hopefully be at a point where we don't have to pass the direct cost of this on to our taxpayers. So I think all of us have the objective of avoiding that if possible. So
That's the goal.
thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'll echo that, and I just want to highlight that, securing 2.1 million is a huge deal, and, we were late to the game on earmarks this past year. I think we were talking about it a week before they were due, and we were like, just throw something at it, and we have to at least, we have to try, and so $2 million is huge. I think, as we go through asking the state for investment and figuring out ways to fund this, I agree we have to look at everything, but to me, marching towards, as we take in this federal money, we're gonna have so many deadlines to spend.
Yep.
And while I don't think it's gonna track the regular federal fiscal year, the agencies are gonna have some flexibility, and, who knows when Congress is even gonna get seated. Yeah. So there will be flexibility for when we spend it. It's not just gonna be like September and it's over, but just to make sure that we're keeping a watch on this dollar has to be spent by, because we're funding this in chunks is going to get wonky.
And so, since you mentioned that, I think, and your Chip, I know your priority thinking this way, but I think because this is a too big to fail project, as this is coming together, being able to have a Gantt chart that we're looking at as a council regularly, so we can see the cascading of tasks and milestones, and then the funding attached to those, that we're able to kind of look at that on a regular basis. If
That is, what you recall, my first hire was a program manager. So we'll get that chart, and then something just to plant a seed as we start looking at the budget in the next few months, is another person in the finance office, because we're going to be talking about tens of millions of dollars coming through the town. We're going to start executing funds on a level that we have never done before. And I know folks love Centreville. We're a small town, 5,000 people, but we're also a multi-million-dollar business. So there's going to be a lot of funds tracking through town if we continue on this path, and our goal is to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I would be in favor of that most likely. I work in the government grant space professionally, and the thing that keeps me up at night is compliance. Are the people that I have managing these grants well, or am I going to have an auditor come, looking for something from me? And so I think it'd be in all of our best interest to make sure that our finance department has what it needs to manage that level of money.
We'll build it into the budget.
Different money. All right, awesome. Anything else for the town manager? All right, Chief of Police.
Good evening. I hope everybody had a healthy holiday season and a good new year. The Centreville Police Department for the month of December, year 2022, I have a couple bullet points to report back to the council. One, we obviously helped organize and participate in the annual Christmas parade, which went off without a hitch, or too many. There's always a few little details that
There were no hitches. No hitches.
but all in all, it was a great event. Nothing really to report there. As Councilman Johnson had mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people. It was one of the bigger events I think I've seen in my 14 years here in Centreville. I was very proud of the way it is handled, the way it worked out. Traffic flowed very freely. At the end, we were able to dissipate all traffic fairly expediently, probably better than we did the year before. So I think we did something right this time.
Hear, hear.
One of the other things in the month of December, obviously we had Christmas and holidays upon us, so we stepped up our patrols in the shopping centers in the center of town. No major issues to report back, nothing that was ever reported to me or to our officers, so it was a good thing. Another thing that took place in December is we did hire one police officer, a Miss Michelle Hurd. She is a new hire. She's not a lateral. She is a uncertified that we just sent to the academy. She actually started yesterday. And she reported back on her first day. She says, "I don't know what I got myself into." So, she's very excited, and we're excited for her. I'm wishing her the best, and I think she'll do very well. One of the things that we have reported back to the council in previous sessions was we had some of the capital expenditures where the new police vehicles, we had 3 that we had purchased this year. We've now taken possession of all 3, and one of the discussions we had was how we were going to either mark them up, et cetera. They're all getting marked, so we're very visible to the community, as we had discussed. There's a few slight changes to the patrol vehicles versus what we had before. They were all navy blue and like a white scheme. We had to stray away from the navy blue due to demand and supply, simply because they are just not making that color anymore. So we had to make quick adjustments to it. So now they're black and white with the same lettering and similar scheme. We actually cleaned them up a little bit. They look very professional. We've had, I think, the marked vehicles on the road for the last 3 days, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback.
They're still like mostly white, right?
The doors are all white on the side yet. Very visible, all reflective, so day or night you'll be able to see us when we're in town, out and about.
Chief, I do have a quick question on that. As of right now, what percentage of the police vehicles have the dividers installed, would you say? Are we still progressing toward?
So, in looking at the situation with the partitions or dividers for the rear of the police vehicles, there was a little situation we ran into, which we're going to try to resolve. Majority of them were issued and bought for vehicles in which will be out of commission here in the next year or 2.
Understood.
So what we've done is we've outfitted all the newer vehicles that we had with those partitions, and the ones that are probably going to be out of service within the next year, we're going to send back to that company, get a refund for them, and then, or at least try to exchange them for the newer versions as we get newer vehicles coming in.
Sounds good.
Not a big deal. The company's willing to work with us, so it's not a loss per se. It's just a time-consuming issue.
But how many cars do we have on the street that don't have the divider?
Currently, we have, if you take mine out of the equation, we only have 2 that are out there on patrol right now that do not have them.
Big improvement.
But, and I think that breaks down then to, there's at least 1 car on the street at any given shift that has the divider, so
Absolutely.
that can be the apprehending and
Absolutely.
transporting
So
vehicle.
one out of those 2 is our K9 vehicle, which they do have the ability to transport a subject in the back in an enclosed compartment. So, but the other, so technically, if you eliminate that out of it, you really have 1 that doesn't have any type of security between the rear and the front.
That's great.
So we're doing very well in that aspect.
I think the town attorney's happy about that too. Maybe.
That was a terrifying thing to have learned. I just,
Sorry, thank you for letting me interrupt, Chief. I appreciate that.
Not a problem. One of the things I discussed with Kip a little while ago is to make sure I had gone around town and checked our parking meter situation. I think pretty much at this point, all the parking meters have been removed, so, and that happened in the month of December, so we're good with that at this point. Let's see. Obviously, we had talked about our 5-year budget. We're consistently working with the town manager and the finance department on, nailing down our 5-year budget. And also, one of the things I wanted to report is the Centreville Police Department has completed all mandated training for the year 2022. We are currently up to date and on par, no audits as far as that's concerned. Our administrative assistant, Laura Anthony, is fairly new to us. She came to us in the middle of November, and I have been ecstatic about the job she is doing. She is above and beyond what our hopes were. One of the things that she did do for our agency is she went through our entire files for all our state files and validated anything that needed to be validated and checked to see if there was anything that was audit worthy, and completely took care of that before the end of the fiscal year. So right now, we don't even have a state audit coming through looking at our files. They're completely happy with the way things are being run. So that was a pleasant surprise. She came to me and did that on her own without even being asked. So, but other than that, our next town council meeting, we'll have more to report as far as personnel. I think we're going to have some other issues like that we're working on. We'll report back. Plus, the end of the year for 2022 summary for the council as the as far as like crime reports and so forth. So,
great.
Any questions at all?
Yes.
Yes,
Where
ma'am.
are we on a speed camera on Little Kidwell?
On Little Kidwell?
Yes,
Okay, so right now we have the three, well, we only have 2 speed cameras that are currently active. The third was being placed down by the wharf.
Right, but so, over a year ago, the previous chief said there would be a speed camera on Little Kidwell by February of 2022. We are approaching February of 2023. And I realize that wasn't you weren't here. Red Speed, the last I heard was Red Speed came out in the summer and studied the traffic. We don't have necessarily the problems that we have during the school year on Little Kidwell during the summer when parents aren't screaming out of canard.
Right.
So I would like us to revisit the traffic situation. I know the additional stop sign was added on Little Kidwell, which helps some if and when people stop at it.
Sure, sure.
And having been pulled over for rolling through that stop sign, I know that people aren't necessarily stopping at it. But there's just an issue, and the community is trying to police itself a little bit. There was in our community Facebook some chatter about, like, we have to at least follow our traffic laws if we expect other people to.
Sure.
But the speeding is a problem. With school back in, it's really, really a problem.
Sure. One of the things that we can do, again, because it was my understanding in meeting with Matt from Red Speed, was that he didn't feel the amount of traffic that was flowing through there as far as violations observed or that were recorded met his criteria at the time for putting a camera there. Now, we can revisit that. Now, what I would like to do is put the speed trailer back down there and record some more data.
That'd be
Something
great.
we have a hard data to look at and go from there. The placement of the speed camera down at the wharf, that, again, was prior to me, so it is what it is at this point. But we can speak with them, see what we can do, revisit that, see what the ideas are.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not interested in a town full of speed cameras, but
Sure.
you're talking about a street with a school on it, so it's like perfect candidate, more so than where we have other speed cameras, in my opinion, that aren't even really
Sure.
near the school. But it's a problem back there, and I know you've had officers out there from time to time, and that's helpful too, but something has to be done, because once that road opens up to the Y, which I'm in favor of, but once that road opens up to the Y, it's only gonna get worse.
So is the speed concern more on the Green Street or more on Little Kidwell?
Little Kidwell.
Okay, all right.
And
They
we-
come out of Kennard and they fly down Little Kidwell, and they have to at least slow down to when they turn onto Green, which they do pick up speed again. But when they can go straight through Little Kidwell, I think that's gonna be a bigger problem.
Sure, it's a long
You have
runway, sure.
you have a ton of children that walk to and from Kennard, to and from the playground. Just Little Kidwell's always got kids out on it.
It's certainly something we can visit and take a look at. And like, again, once I said, we can get some hard data numbers to look at as far as violation speed, so forth, and we can certainly revisit that.
Just get Erica a laser.
The Red Speed can help with traffic counts as well, to help us get a baseline on traffic
And they did that,
counts.
but in the summer,
Right,
when the traffic is
sure.
de minimis
It'd be
compared
nice to have a baseline, Eric and I were talking about this a second ago, a baseline before the extension
Yeah,
gets
before the
through,
Y,
so we
yeah.
can gauge the impact of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we did have the speed trailer out there maybe a year. I don't even remember.
It's been a while.
It's
We
been
can-
a while, yeah.
Like you said, we can bring
It's
it
out
back
there for
over.
a few months and recorded data, which we looked at.
Did it
and-
record data when it was out there just saying stop sign ahead?
Yes,
Okay, so can we get that data? Can I see that data?
absolutely.
That'd be great.
Just a quick question. So I'm crystal clear on this. We are expecting in time, a permanent enduring presence of a traffic camera on that street, correct?
That's what I had asked for and was told we would get a year ago.
And if you don't mind, this group, me asking for just a quick show of hands, quick count, are we all in favor of that? I know I am. I just, if that's truly where we are, and there's a majority of us that feel that way, I know you're getting it, Chief, but I want to make sure we're crystal clear that the sooner we have that, just like Jim just said, we were talking, to have enduring data for all the seasons and cycling through as the Y opens and then as it expands in its membership, to be able to tell the residents of Providence Farm and the rest of the town, hey, traffic increased 10%. So it may feel like it's 100%, but it's 10. Or, you know what, it's 100%. We need to really look at this. So
Absolutely.
the sooner we can start to build that foundational data.
Yeah.
I
and
just
if-
have to reach out to the appropriate people, get the data set, or the cameras set up out there, and then get the data to the right people and see if it's a feasible option. And Matt from Red Speed is our contact, so I'll get with him.
And I talked to the town manager about this a little bit. If it's not an option for a permanent camera, which I have mixed feelings about personally, but I think would be great. I think the residents want it would be great, and I will do my best not to be a victim of it.
Well, I
But
mean, obviously, we have.
can we not at least put a temporary one out there?
Yeah.
For some, like, when the town manager and I were discussing, for some behavior change, like I got pulled over once for rolling through a stop sign. I can promise you, I count to 3 every time now. So like, if we had a temporary speed camera out there, it might change some behavior.
I agree.
I think the curb parking presents a problem for you in Red Speed as to how you place that camera.
So we were told that at the corner of Little Kidwell and Green, this is back with the former chief, there wouldn't be that problem, I guess. I guess in that, if you're sitting at the stop sign on Little Kidwell, about to turn onto Green, the right-hand side across, that there'd be no, when it goes through, like,
I was gonna say, yeah, once that goes through, that probably.
be a clear shot. I don't know. There could be a boat in the way, who knows?
So we can do the temporary, and then we can look at options for what it would cost to do a permanent.
Sure.
Because I'm sure whatever the cost of placing one permanent is a fraction of us paying $50,000-$60,000 for another traffic study, which, you know, I famously spooked the herd of the Y leadership when I said that.
And lastly, but not least, is one of the things we're looking at, we started touching on the topic in December. We just recently heard today that we will be approved for a grant through the state for what they call ALPRs, which are automatic license plate readers. So ultimately, we got on board with the county as well. So we're working hand in hand with the county to implement 2 mobile units, which they attach to our police vehicles. And we also are going to get 2 stationary units, which will attach to poles in certain sections of the town. We're going to do one on north end, one on south end. So ultimately what they do is, if you're not familiar, is they gather data. They read license plates from vehicles.
This feels very Big Brother-y, but okay. No, I don't love where this is heading, but.
So basically it collects data on vehicle plates. So if there's anything, if there's a suspended registration, if there was a vehicle that was wanted or stolen, or any of that type of data, it would transfer it and relay it to our agency.
And we're definitely putting these in the town.
Well, we don't definitely, I mean, we can talk about it, but it's in the works. We have been approved to do this.
I'd like us to have a discussion. I mean, I don't like that. I really,
Well, they're all over the
I'm
state.
probably, I understand that. I'm probably a minority in this, but I don't love it.
Well, the good thing about it is if we ever have an incident in town and we're looking for timeframes, we can research times in which vehicles go through there. And if we have a suspect we're looking for, we can run their tag and see if they came through the area at certain times. It's a good investigative tool to have, and the state is willing to basically give us the money for it. So.
Can you just get us some more information on it so maybe I can
Absolutely,
feel a
I
little
can.
bit better?
We-
But I don't
we
love the
have-
sound of it.
And my
I'll tell you that.
suspicion is you want to know if I can read your mind here,
No.
who has access to the data, when do they have access, things like that. That probably doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it's definitely law enforcement sensitive. But ultimately, it's, something.
I want to know who we share our data with. I want to know from an immigration standpoint more than anything. If we have a stolen tag, let's say, are we then, and we find out that the person who stole that tag or is driving that vehicle, it has, unregistered status, are we turning them over to ICE? I mean, I'm not interested in the town becoming a policing vehicle for the federal government.
No, it's not quite that in-depth, no, it's not like that. I mean, and besides, if you have an undocumented person of something of that nature, ICE isn't going to get involved with just one person. That's what we found out throughout the years. You'd have to have 500 people undocumented for them to even bat an eye at you these days. That's not the extent, and that's not what the purpose of them.
But could it be used that way? Is the data from that available to other police agencies beyond you in the county?
The data that is collected is from the registered owner, the registration plate itself.
I understand that, but who has the data? Like, is it just you and the county, or can,
Just law enforcement only.
what law enforcement is my question?
Is that like in LEOPS or whatever?
Like-
No, there would be municipalities like the Centreville Police Department, the Queen Anne Sheriff, Maryland State Police, they all have access to that data.
Okay, I just want more info. I don't like it. Okay, that's all I have.
I can get you all the information, including copies of the grants and so forth, that explains the process a bit more in depth.
Okay.
The tag readers, you were telling me that that's something, particularly on the mobile units, that an officer can come up behind a vehicle, read the tag, and if there's an outstanding warrant or things of that nature.
Yeah, and I understand that.
also-
I just, from a broader, and Chief, this isn't about you, this isn't anything personal about anybody, but from a broader, to me, just because someone will give us money for something doesn't mean that we should buy it. And just because a grant's available doesn't mean that we should apply for it, in my opinion. And so I struggle that we would essentially be setting policy, in my opinion, that's policy,
Okay.
based on funding that we can receive without any council involvement other than we're being told that it's happening. So when we're deciding if a grant should be applied for, perhaps the council should say, yay or nay, because let's not use energy on things that if we're gonna get the money. And again, I am probably the only person, it's the only person that said no to ballistic helmets. I'm gonna be the only no on a lot of police issues. But we probably should have the conversation before energy is expended to get money, because just because we can get something doesn't mean we wanna have it.
Sure, absolutely, I understand that, and I can gather all that data for you and present it to council next meeting.
Great.
Well, and you're not alone up here that when fiscal decisions are made that indirectly or unintentionally set policy, I want to at least know, like, when does that happen? So when does that threshold get met?
Fair enough.
If there is information on municipalities or counties in the area, in the region, that have or have not the same technology, that'd be informative as well.
Sure, absolutely, because it's my understanding that pretty much almost every jurisdiction on the Eastern Shore has some type of tag reader installed somewhere within that jurisdiction. And like I said, the county is looking to jump on board as well, and I think they're going to place anywhere between 4 and 6 throughout the entire county as well. So.
All right, great.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions? Good.
Town attorney?
I have nothing.
Okay. Finance officer, she's not here. Do we have anything for her, or we good? Okay.
Oh, do we know if we're getting ready to receive the Outlook invites for all of the budget sessions? I'm just kind of hoping they come out soon to block schedules.
Yeah, we'll get that out to you before the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't remember if she had asked you guys just to check
She
your
did just to
calendars.
email
Yeah.
her if we had any issues.
That
Okay,
date just passed by which we were supposed to provide
Okay.
feedback, so assuming we didn't have any
I
issues.
can double, because she's been out of the office, and I can double check with her, and I can send out
Getting anxious.
I'm
Outlook
gonna-
invites.
I'm going to send you my work email so that it lands on a calendar that actually means something to me. I mean, the only thing on my town council email calendar is this meeting. It's not really meaningful in the grand scheme of my calendar.
Oh, yeah, you should use my personal address for a calendar invite as well. I don't look at
Right.
the town calendar
Yeah.
either. Sorry.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Director of Public Works.
Nothing to.
Get out of here. That's never happened, Kip.
I have a quick question. I promise we'll be quick because we're making really good time here. You can probably answer from the floor, and I'll just repeat it. There are some, it looks like utility wires hanging out on Watson Road right by the park pavilions there. Is that new lighting? Is it replacement? I was just curious if that means there's like more lighting along that route. And you can be real quick. I know we're making good time here.
No, you're fine. Yeah, there's been several questions about that. Those are conduits and stuff that were put in while we were wiring the pavilions and stuff around there. That's part of the progression of the progress with it, or the installing everything at the park. There was a conduit that was stubbed up where the band shell was going to go. That's since been cut off down below the ground so that nobody trips over it or anything. But that's all part of the phasing in of all the work that we're doing there. So we do try to get to them in a timely manner before somebody trips over it or these questions come up for everybody. It's just short staffing and get to it when we can.
And that was definitely not a complaint, just a curiosity.
Yep.
Thanks.
And I just have a thank you to you and Jackie on your team for, I emailed you about a Delmarva Power issue for one of my neighbors, and just appreciate you guys handling that.
Yep.
Human Resources Manager.
Good evening. Just a few updates. So we held interviews last week for the utility worker position, and we've made 2 verbal offers. So I'll be doing the background here shortly as soon as we get all the paperwork in. For the month of December, I'm probably not right because I don't have all my notes, but we had 2 separations and 1 new hire. And I'll try, what I'm gonna do from now on is just monthly updates of staffing, that sort of thing. As far as any other update, AccuFund is now officially live on the cloud. That would probably have been Karen's update, but since she's not here, I'll just let you know. So they Ashley completed the first payroll in the cloud for this pay period. So nothing major as far as some glitches, but it actually worked out pretty smooth. It'll be a lot better. We do have the employee portal access. Right now, that's still pending as Ashley and I are working with Pat with AccuFund to get all the views and access and everything set up. So that should be coming shortly as well. And we'll get the training for the employees. So that's in the near horizon, so that will be really beneficial. I did have a meeting with Benecon and Cigna maybe 2 weeks ago, just regarding our mid-year review for health insurance. I'll have more information during the January 19th update, but I can tell you that for the mid-year review, it's an estimate of about $45,000 to $46,000 in surplus that we should be receiving back. We do have Legit has a new executive officer, so Tim Aylesworth has retired at the end of last year. So we'll have a new executive officer that would be coming to present the check to the town and everything. So you'll get to meet them as soon as I find out who it is. So other than that, just working, like Chief had mentioned, working on the 5-year budget projections for personnel, trying to get the position budget management handled with that. Continuing the work with hopefully we'll have personnel manual and that up on the agenda. That would be great. Other than that, I have nothing. Do you have any questions for me at all?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm trying to cover some time. Skip head. Skip through.
I'll have to cover time.
Town clerk.
Just real quick, I have started the application for a Tree City USA designation, which we get every year. I started that, working on the January 21st volunteer appreciation dinner, and that's all I can think of right now.
It's the 28th, right?
Is it the 28th? Yes, the 28th.
And the dinner this Saturday?
Saturday.
Okay. Cool. Any questions for the town clerk? Anybody? All right, we'll now go into the second citizens forum. Do we have any citizens that wish to speak? Okay. Thought Jamie was getting up. About to get exciting in here. Council roundtable, Councilmember Beecham.
Nothing significant to report, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Ward.
Just wanted to compliment Chip on getting a structural engineer on board to take a look at some potentially dangerous buildings, so.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
I just have one quick bullet, and that is that I had the honor of moving into the wonderful and beautiful section of town known as Providence Farm. And so we now have achieved a quorum in that particular portion of our community. So we have discussed, Councilman Beecham, our Council Vice President Kaiser, and I have talked about being very diligent and not going to mailbox at the same time. So, but if there are residents that need things for that part of the town, it's a good time to live in Providence
No
Farm.
backyard parties in Providence Farm.
That's all I have. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Allocation for that fee for that property is $24 million.
Oh, wait.
Oh, man. I don't have anything tonight that I can think of that I haven't already brought up. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Hearing it.
You good? All right.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Yeah, it looked like you
Did
were
anybody
ready to say
second?
something. Second.